Leave is not granted. The member for Bowman.
Question to the Treasurer, to whom we're hopelessly devoted, but a couple of questions late. Bill, you're definitely the one that I don't want. Will the Treasurer explain to the House how the Morrison government's stable and certain budgetary management, lower taxes and record of trade agreements will keep our economy resilient in the face of future challenges? And is the Treasurer aware of any threats to our economy?
The Treasurer has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I thank the member for Bowman for his question. And he's aware that in his electorate there are 68,000 hard-working Australians who are taxpayers who are going to get a tax cut as a result of legislation which this side of the parliament supported, Mr Speaker. And 28,000 of those taxpayers in Bowman will get the full $1,080, Mr Speaker. And there are 16,000 small businesses in the electorate of Bowman that will have access to the extended instant asset write-off. Now, Mr Speaker, the coalition bequeathed to the Labor Party when they came to office a pristine balance sheet, Mr Speaker, no government debt, money in the bank and a $20 billion surplus, Mr Speaker. That was what John Howard and Peter Costello bequeathed to the Labor Party. Well, what was their gift for us, Mr Speaker? What was their gift for us? $240 billion in accumulated deficits, Mr Speaker, and a final budget which was in deficit by 3% of GDP, $48.5 billion, Mr Speaker. Investment was in freefall, unemployment was rising, Mr Speaker. Now, we've turned it around. The coalition have turned it around, helping to create 1.4 million new jobs, Mr Speaker, and employment growth which is now more than 3 times what we inherited, Mr Speaker. Trade relationships that have been secured with China, Japan, Korea, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, opening up markets for Australian businesses to nearly 2 billion new customers, Mr Speaker. That's what we've done with our free trade agreements. And we have passed legislation to give tax cuts worth more than $300 billion in the last 2 budgets, Mr Speaker. That's the equivalent of the most significant tax cuts that this parliament has seen in more than 2 decades. Now, Mr Speaker, that is our record. Lower taxes and more jobs, and a AAA credit rating and an economy that has just completed its 28th consecutive year of economic growth. But I'm asked, are there any alternative approaches, Mr Speaker? And we know that those opposite are committed to $387 billion of higher taxes, Mr Speaker. Could you imagine putting on the Australian economy now, with the challenges that we face, $387 billion of higher taxes? And what is more, the Labor Party are still committed to their class warfare rhetoric. Now, the Leader of the Opposition will go to the BCA this morning and whisper sweet nothings in the ear of business leaders. But the reality is they still talk about the top end of town. We still remember about welfare for the wealthy. We still remember that small businesses were fat cats, Mr Speaker. You don't just need to change your language, you need to change your policies, Mr Speaker. And until the Labor Party changes their policies, they're still the party